This is how to use Urshifu in Pokemon VGC Regulation F. Now in this video I'm going to go over both Urshifu forms as well as some of the best partners, and I'm going to start with Urshifu Rapid Strike. The first set I wanted to talk about is this Choice Scarf set, and this is probably the most common set right now. Just because of how flexible it is, you can use it on a very wide variety of teams. You do get access to that strong stabs, surging strikes, and close combat, but then you also have the fast pivot option and U-turn. And this Pokemon's really good at just doing a lot of damage right away, knocking things out. Or if you're not in a great spot, you can U-turn, reposition, and put yourself in a better one. Now, as far as EV spreads go, I'm not going to give you anything too specific, mainly because I think this Pokemon is just such a flexible piece and there's so many different ways you can train this Pokemon. But I do want to give you some direction, so I think you always want to be able to hit that 138 speed stat. This is just to outspeed the non-booster speed Flutter Mains. And you probably don't want Adamant. I have seen some Jolly. There's actually been some really slow Flutter Mains lately. And you can get the jump on those Flutter Mains because they're running the bold nature. If you run like Jolly, almost max speed Urshifu. But for the most part on Scarf, you're going to want to be running Adamant and you're going to want to hit at least 138 speed. You can either just go up to the bump, you can go more. You'll have to do your calcs. It really does depend on your team because a lot of teams have different modifiers like Rain Dance to be able to boost your damage. You might not need as much attack if you have that. But yeah, a lot of teams will want to opt for 156, just hit the bump. They might want to go a bit faster to get the jump on like other Urshifus or other Scarf Pokemon, and then you can just like dump some in bulk. Something like this looks pretty standard. You might appreciate the bulk a little bit more if you're using a defensive Terra like Grass. And Grass is pretty good to just get around like Thunderclaps, Grassy Glides, or even just like a Moongus in general. So all interesting aspects of the Pokemon to consider. You have a lot of different options with this Pokemon. The Scarf Urshifu really is just such a flexible offensive piece. So there are so many different ways you can build this out, just all depending on what your team needs. Now, the next set I wanted to talk about is this Mystic Water set. And this is a set you're going to be seeing a lot more commonly on like slower balance teams. And that's because those teams, first of all, they do like the option to be able to click Protect. So having the flexibility in your move choice is really big. But another thing is that like they don't necessarily have those multipliers like Rain Dance or Helping Hand. So Mystic Water gives them another way to put on a bit more pressure. Some are going to be Terra Water, but you're also going to see defensive Terras like Grass a little bit. Or there's also been a lot more Terra Fire lately as well. Terra Fire is a really interesting option. And there's also been some Terra Steel, I believe. So these are all very interesting options for the Pokemon. I think it's really good on those slower balance teams. Specifically, you see it a little bit on some faster teams, but realistically, most of the time it's going to be on those slower balance teams like the Bolt Balance. Now, you do probably want to EV to be a bit faster than stuff like the Max Speed Incineroar, which doesn't really require too much. Probably you want to be a bit faster than like a really fast Raging Bolt or really fast Rillaboom as well. Probably somewhere around 133 is going to be like a safe number to hit. You could go a bit slower or a bit faster depending on what you want. But it doesn't need the same sort of like insane speed investment as the Scarf one because you don't really have a specific bump that you need to hit to get the jump on like those really fast Pokemon. You're never going to outspeed them anyways unless you go like maybe a Jolly one. I've seen some Jolly, although that's more so on like the Sash set, and I'll get to that in a second. But you're probably not going to be outspeeding the super fast pieces anyways. So just going something a little bit slower like this, and then just dumping the rest into offense and bulk is probably the route that you're going to want to take with this. Now, next up we do have the Focus Sash Urshifu set, and this is just pretty like typical what you expect from an Urshifu. It's just going to be Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Aqua Jet. I haven't really seen any other moves run on the Sash set. You do also have the option for Detect, and they're probably going to be Terra Water. Some might be Terra Stellar. And what you're going to see on the spread is that they're probably just going to be max speed, max attack, and be Adamant Nature. Something a little bit interesting is that some of them have decided to go Jolly lately. And that's mainly because some Flutter Mains are running Bold. These are these very bulky booster speed Flutter Mains. And so if you go to Jolly, you can actually outspeed those Flutter Mains after they have like a speed drop, because of the booster speed. You offset the speed increase from the booster speed with like an Icy Wind from your own faster Flutter Main, and then you can outspeed them and knock them out with Terra Water Surging Strikes. But this is only relevant as long as like they are running this bold set. As soon as they go timid, this is just completely pointless. So, higher usage is definitely going to be adamant. This is what you should probably expect to see, but just keep in mind some are going jolly right now. Now, the last set I wanted to talk about here for Urshifu Rapid Strike is this Choice Band set. And this is a lot more niche. You're going to be seeing this maybe on some Tailwind teams, more likely ones with Whimsicott. You could run it on a Torn team as well. But this one typically needs to be supported by a lot of heavy speed control. We did see PokeAlex run this at the Summit Invitational event without Tailwind, but he did have a Thunderwave Icy Wind Flutter Mane with the Terra Grass, so he had a consistent option for the speed control, and then you can get the Choice Band Surging Strikes to close combats off fairly consistently. So this is an interesting option, but definitely the least flexible out of all these, I would say. So you're not going to be seeing this too much, but it is out there. Now, as for what you might be seeing for Urshifu Rapid Strike's partners, I think the first one that I have to mention is Tornadus. This is a strong piece on even some balanced teams just to offer a Tailwind mode, and it really does do a really great job of supporting Urshifu with the Rain Dance, just boost its damage. Typically you're probably going to see this with like the Scarf Urshifu, maybe the Sash one. The Mystic Water one, like I said earlier, is usually just on like these bulkier balance teams. But, speed control, Urshifu does really appreciate that, which is also why Booster Speed Fluttermane is a very good partner for it. Especially with like the Thunderwave and Icy Wind, like I just mentioned, this is apparently good enough to support the Banded Urshifu. And it's pretty good support for something like a Mystic Water or a Sash one as well. So definitely, this is a good option. Amoonguss, just for redirection, is always a pretty solid piece beside an Urshifu. Urshifu does get threatened by a lot, especially like Thunderclaps from the Raging Bolt. So Amoonguss can help to protect Urshifu from that. And then Rillaboom and Incineroar, this is kind of just like, Rillaboom, Incineroar, Urshifu is just a really, really strong Fire, Water, Grass core on balance teams. You see this on a lot of the standard balance teams right now. And if it's not Rillaboom, Incineroar, Urshifu, then you might be seeing Amoonguss, Incineroar, Urshifu. So yeah, just really strong Fire, Water, Grass core, supposed to be Grassy Surge. But yeah, no, this is definitely very strong options. For Urshifu, they just have a lot of great coverage together, and you can kind of just cycle through, get your damage off. Just really, really strong partners for Ursh. Fake Out is also such a strong supporting tool for Urshifu because obviously it can attack through Protect. So when you have Fake Out on the field, beside Urshifu, you're basically just getting guaranteed damage with Fake Out and Surging Strikes into like a slot. They can't Protect, so definitely really, really strong options with the Rillaboom and the Incineroar to be able to pivot around and then get those pins with the Fake Out plus the strong attack from the Urshifu. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. That's really the main reason why these are such great partners for each other. Now, moving on to the Urshifu Dark. I am going to start off with the Choice Band set for this one. This feels like probably the more common set right now, but the Focus Sash one is pretty good too, and once again I'll talk about that in a second. But Choice Band Urshifu is pretty strong on a lot of these like Tornadus offense teams. I have another Choice Band Urshifu right here. This is the one that's used typically on Hard Trick Room. So these are two different sort of variants of the Choice Band Urshifu. On the like hyper offense teams with the Tornadus, you're basically just trying to do a lot of damage and be as fast as possible, knock things out. Something like this, I wouldn't expect to see too much bulk. You probably have a little bit, just to live the attacks that you want to live, but typically you're just going to be like putting in as much speed as you need, and then all the attack that you need to get those KOs. As for this one on the Hard Trick Room ones, they actually go minimum speed and brave, because they're setting up Trick Room, and then they're trying to get pins under Trick Room with stuff like Torkoal, Hatterene, that type of stuff. So you can just pressure the Wicked Blow, then they can't, or the Close Combat even, and they can't stall through your Trick Room. And you're going to see the Terra Grass on this one, just to sort of stop Amoonguss from being able to sit there and spore your team. So definitely like very different in terms of how these two are utilized, but they're both very strong pieces, meant to just like pressure things and pin things. Now the other set on these Urshifu Darks is of course this Focus Sash set. You'll see this still on a lot of like Tailwind teams more so, especially the team with like the Tornadus and the Glamora. You'll see this Focus Sash Urshifu, and it's also picked up on some of the Fluttermane, Hisui, and Arcanine teams. And this is just a really strong damage option. Something to keep in mind with this Focus Sash set though is it does miss a lot of like knockouts barely with the Terra Dark Wicked Blows, so it's a very strong Pokemon, but you're not necessarily going to be getting those one-hit knockouts without some type of support from your other Pokemon. So that is something to keep in mind. Typically this will just be max speed, max attack, adamant. I have like seen, and this is something that I've used in the past as well, more so in Regulation G, but it can be used in this format as well, is you can actually put 20 in defense, and this like really greatly improves your Surging Strikes rolls. So that's definitely an interesting option you can go for, and this doesn't really change too many calcs. Now when it comes to partners for Urshifu Dark, I do think it's a little bit more limited than with Urshifu Rapid Strike, but Tornadus is still a very, very strong option beside it. These Tornadus do often run the Sunny Day move. I don't have it on this one, but they do often run Sunny Day because Urshifu Dark does like being paired with a lot of these other strong sun-based attackers, like the Raging Bolt, the Fluttermane, sometimes the Chi-Yu. These are all just very strong pieces on these Tailwind offense teams. So that's also something to keep in mind. Urshifu does like being paired with those, the Dark Urshifu. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is, like, once again, this Fluttermane, just the booster speed with the speed control options is still a very strong piece with this Urshifu Dark, especially the Focus Sash one. I think the banned one, it's a little bit too susceptible to just like getting removed by other things to be run without the like some other like form of hard speed control, like the Tornadus or the Indeedee Hatterene hard Trick Room stuff. But this is still a very strong option. And then we do have the Ogerpon Wellspring, and this is just a strong redirector, typically on like some of the Tornadus teams. Sometimes if you want to run like the balancy ones as well, Ogerpon Wellspring, really good at, just being able to protect your Urshifu from attacks. But then also it's pretty strong because it's so fast. You can double things up with the Ogerpon Wellspring and Urshifu, and you can knock things out. So definitely a really strong like offensive pairing, but also defensive. So yeah, all these things are quite strong with the Urshifu Dark. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Thank you for watching. Bye.